You finish your in-app purchase flow, you point it at the sandbox, you tap the buy button, a test dialog appears, the purchase comes back successful, and your unlock screen shows up. It all works, so you ship. Then a real customer in Singapore opens your app, taps the same buy button, and installs. The price shows in the wrong currency, or the payment methods they expect are simply missing, or the purchase goes through and your app never unlocks the thing they just paid for. Nothing was broken in your code. The layer that broke was the real Google Play billing stack underneath, and that is the layer a sandbox never truly shows you. For context, I run more than 100 real cloud Android phones in Singapore. Genuine Samsung handsets on real carrier SIMs, each with its own persistent Singapore mobile IP, its own ADB endpoint, and the live view you open in the browser. Teams that ship paid apps point their purchase tests at these phones because a purchase is the one flow you cannot honestly fake. It runs through Google Play billing, and Google Play services quietly grade the device they run on. So before I show you where a real phone earns its place, I want to be fair about the free tools Google already gives you, because for a big part of this work they are genuinely enough. So here is the verdict up front. For the happy path, checking that your code calls the billing library correctly and reacts to a purchase, Google's own licensed testers and test products do the job for free, and you should use them. But the moment the test has to reflect what a real buyer actually sees, the real regional price, the real local payment methods, a subscription that renews next week, an integrity check that gates the purchase, only a real device signed into a real account in a real country tells the truth. Most serious teams use both, and I will show you exactly where the line sits. Rinten Duitisit. Start with why a purchase is different from the rest of your testing. A normal UI test drives your own screens, but a purchase hands control to Google Play. Your app calls the billing library, Play takes over with its own sheet, the account's payment methods appear, the charge happens on Google's side, and only then does a purchase token come back to your app to unlock the content. You are testing a flow that lives half inside your app and half inside a system you do not control, and that system decides what to show based on the account and the device it trusts. Now credit where it is due, because Google's test tooling is good. You add licensed test accounts in the Play console, and when one of those accounts buys, the purchase runs through the whole real flow, but the card is never actually charged. You can also wire static test products that always return a fixed result, purchased, cancelled, or refunded, so you exercise each branch of your code without touching a real payment at all. For confirming that your billing library calls are correct and your unlock logic fires, this is exactly the right tool and it costs nothing.
Here is where those tools stop.
A licensed tester still has to sign in on a real device with real Google Play services, so the emulator you ran it on was already the weak link. Static test products skip the real payment sheet entirely, so they never show you the currency, the price tier, or the local payment methods a real buyer makes. And a test purchase that is never charged cannot tell you whether your server correctly verifies a genuine purchase token from a genuine sale. The free tools cover the code path. They do not cover the real world the purchase lives in. Region is the first thing that only a real setup gets right. The price your buyer sees, the currency it is in, and the payment methods offered are all decided by the country on the Google account and the signals of the device it sits on. A test account pinned to the wrong country or an emulator with no real network behind it will happily show you a price and a payment list that no Singapore customer will ever see. If your pricing is tiered by market, testing on the wrong region is testing a product you do not sell. On a real Singapore phone, the store shows what a real Singapore buyer gets. Prices in Singapore dollars, the local payment methods people here actually use, carrier billing on a real carrier, and the checkout your customer will really walk. cloudf.one gives each phone its own persistent Singapore mobile IP on a real carrier SIM, Singtel, StarHub, M1, or Vivify, so the device is not wearing a Singapore label, it is physically on a Singapore network. For anything where the price or the payment options change by country, that is the difference between a test that reflects your buyer and one that quietly does not. Then there is device integrity, which sits underneath the whole purchase. Google Play services check whether they are running on genuine, uncompromised hardware, and an emulator or a rooted phone can fail that check. When it fails, billing can behave differently or refuse outright, and any part of your app that gates a feature behind an integrity signal takes a path a real customer never takes. A real Samsung handset passes because there is nothing to pass. It simply is a genuine certified device, so the purchase runs the same way it will for the person who actually pays you. Subscriptions are where the testing gets genuinely hard because a subscription is not one event, it is a life. There is the free trial, the introductory price, the first real renewal, then the states that follow: active, a grace period when a payment fails; on hold, paused, cancelled, and resubscribed. Upgrades and downgrades carry their own proration. Your app has to react correctly to every one of these, and most of them only reveal themselves over real time on a device that is still there tomorrow when the renewal actually fires. This is exactly where a wiped or throwaway device falls apart. A subscription you start today has to still be there next week so you can watch it renew, and the account that bought it has to be the same account when the grace period hits. A device that gets reset between sessions cannot hold any of that, so you never see the renewal, the dunning, or the recovery your real subscribers will live through. On my phones, the handset, the account, and the SIM all persist, so a subscription test you begin on Monday is still running on the same phone when the state you were waiting for finally arrives. The other half most teams forget to test is their own server. A real purchase returns a purchase token, and your backend is supposed to verify that token against the Google Play Developer API before it grants anything, so a forged or replayed receipt gets rejected. You can only exercise that path honestly with a real token from a real device flow, ideally a licensed tester so no money moves. Run the whole loop, buy on the phone, let the token reach your server, watch your server verify it, and unlock the entitlement. And you have tested the joint that fraud usually attacks, not just the pretty part on the screen. Real payment methods bring one more thing an emulator cannot: the security step in the middle. A real card, a bank, or a carrier charge will often trigger a one-time code or a bank verification prompt, and that code arrives by SMS on the number seated in the phone. On a device with no real SIM, there is nothing to receive it, so you stop the step and pretend. On a real cloud phone, the code lands on the real Singapore number in the handset, and because the phone is reachable over ADB, your test can read it and enter it, covering the exact step where real checkout stalls. Once one phone works, the fleet is where the real bugs surface. The same purchase test can run across a Singtel phone, a StarHub phone, and an M1 phone on different accounts in different states, all in one pass. A buyer on one carrier or one account tier can meet a payment method or a price the others never see. And that is precisely the kind of difference a single emulator flattens into nothing. Because every phone answers over its own ADB endpoint. You wire the purchase path into your build and let a row of real Singapore phones attempt a real checkout before you sit down in the morning. Let me be plain about what a real phone will not do. It will not let you skip Google's test tracks and console setup. That groundwork is still yours to lay. It will not stop a real card from being charged if you choose to use one, which is exactly why the licensed testers exist. And it will not fix a bug in your own server verification. It will only show it to you honestly. A real device removes the fake in the foundation. Everything you build on top of it is still on you to get right. The reason teams do not just keep a drawer of real phones for this is that a device lab is a grinding job of its own. Every account wants its own real Google sign-in. Every carrier needs its own SIM that costs money every month. Prepaid lines need topping up, and every handset needs charging without cooking its battery, needs its updates, and needs a way to stay reachable over ADB from wherever your build runs. Do that across a few carriers, kept alive so your checkout test can hit them on every release, and you have hired a full-time role that has nothing to do with the app you are trying to sell. That is the whole reason cloud.one exists. Real Samsung handsets in Singapore on dedicated hardware, each with its own persistent Singapore mobile IP, on a real carrier SIM, Singtel, StarHub, M1 or Vivify, across prepaid and postpaid lines. Not an emulator, not a data center address, not a laptop wearing a Singapore label, a genuine certified phone that Google Play trusts because it is a genuine phone. You watch each one live in the browser, reach it over its own ADB endpoint, and list or lock any device through the API, so your purchase and subscription tests run on real hardware in the market you actually sell into. Start at cloud.one and use code YT30 on your first month. So to recap, a purchase is the one flow you cannot honestly fake because it runs through Google Play billing and Google Play services grade the device underneath. Google's licensed testers and static test products are the right free tool for the happy path, so use them. But the real price, the real local payment methods, the integrity check, the code in the middle, and a subscription that renews over real days only behave on a real device, in a real country, on an account that persists. Test your code on the free tools and test the real purchase on a real Singapore phone. Keep every purchase test pointed at your own app and your own accounts. Use the licensed testers so nothing gets charged that should not, and let a real device tell you the truth about the moment a customer actually pays. I'll see you in the next one.